university, the literature stressed that they have more peer relationships. But anyway, in this kind of outcomes, the risk is that many times or too often their peer relationship are limited to the peer mentor, and so that the friendships risks to remain poor. Anyway, if we consider the attitudes of teachers, mentors, and staff, the scientific literature told us that this kind of attitude are evolving in a positive way. The last point that I shared with you is this one. Today, in general, in the work that we are generating, our approach is an inclusive approach. So we are considering, and we consider significant for us to consider, inclusive curriculum. So we recognized the value of a special curriculum, again, and even about the mixed or the so-called hybrid model. But somehow our dream or somehow our ambition is to shape a curriculum for students with disability that consider an inclusive approach. So students with disability together with a peer without disability in the classroom. This is the frame of our work. So I interrupt the screen, and I guess that is the moment to give the floor to the first guest, and is Elida. Elida Linea Slectum has 10 minutes to present her speech. I just remember that Elida is the vice chair of the Executive Council at Bergen University, and her focuses area are equality, learning environment, and welfare. And in Arqus, Elida, she's elected as chair of the Student Council, where she organizes their monthly digital meetings, as well as their physical meetings. And she has also a tight contact with the steering group of Arqus. So Elida, welcome again, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. We'll just try to, I cannot share the screen, unfortunately.
Okay, let's see.
Can you manage now? Elida, try again, please.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, my name is Elida Linea Slectum. I am the Vice President and Head of Teaching, Environment, Inclusivity and Welfare in this Executive Council of the Student Parliament at the University of Bergen. And I'm also the chair of the Arqus Student Council. It's a very long title. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how university can be inclusive. Firstly, I just want to talk a little bit about why a university should be inclusive. Here we have the concept of higher education shall be accessible to all. Everybody should have the same opportunity to study, no matter ethnicity, gender, economy, background, geography, or function level. Here it will be, obviously, I will talk more about the functional level part of it. Everybody with disabilities should be a part of society. Everybody should be a part of society and community. And without an inclusive university, would push people out of the academic community and hinder the education. If going to university and getting an education is too hard, not with the curriculum or the general difficulty of the classes, but in level of reading from the board, hearing your lecture, getting into the classes in person, finding the classes at the university, and other external factors, then we make it too hard for people to actually get their education. And this is why it's important that universities focus on inclusivity. In Norway, also, everybody has the legal right to study. All public education in Norway is free, and the law states that everybody in Norway has the legal right to study, and everybody should, like the universities, has to facilitate for students that need it. I think it also an important factor is that we as a society lose valuable brains and knowledge if we exclude people from the university. They will get less opportunities also later in life than people who do not have these types of issues. And like my friend of me said one time, that education does not come from the body, it comes from the head. In Norwegian, it kind of rhymes and sounds better, but I think that's a very good concept of valuing everybody, no matter how, what type of issues they have and challenges. Here at the University of Bergen, we also have an action plan for inclusive learning and universal design. This is the first of this type of action plan. We have had, or we still have, an action plan for strengthening the learning environment, but this is the specific one that is for inclusive learning, universal design, people with disabilities. The inspiration to make this actually came from a student who was in a wheelchair and saw and made a report of the problems that the University of Bergen had. Through universal design and individual adaptation of study provisions, the University of Bergen will aim to create a learning environment that allows all our students to fully participate in all aspects of university life. That is a very good principle to have in this. Now we're actually also working on combining this action plan and the action plan for learning environment into one bigger action plan, where almost every part of the university is in the working group for this action plan, where the student and head of learning environment, which is me now, a new person over summer, is the leader. And this action plan is supposed to be done by November 2022. So how can a university be inclusive? There are different aspects of universal design, being inclusive and everything. The big picture, which is mostly the physical and big things that university has to facilitate. For example, wheelchair accessible doors, elevators, buildings that everybody can get around in, signs that are visible from a distance, accessible bathrooms, stair markers, braille and markers for visually impaired, so everybody can actually be in person at the university. It's a very big factor here. The layout and accessibility of the buildings has to make sure that students can actually physically be there and get around, go to the lectures, go to the bathrooms, to the classes, and everything like this. The smaller details is also about having breaks in the lectures, always have a microphone. And if you cannot have a microphone in your lecture, then inform the students beforehand so they can themselves know what to do. For example, if you have difficulty hearing, you can know beforehand that you need to sit in the front part of the room. Or if you have your own systems, then you need to bring this. Universally designed presentations and curriculums are also very important. And using a dyslexia-friendly font, it's actually a very easy way to be more universally inclusive. For example, Times New Roman, which is a very popular font for a lot of people, are not dyslexia friendly because the letters have these tabs out, which makes it harder to read, while fonts like Arial and other very plain and simple fonts are easier for people with dyslexia to read. And these details are things that everybody can kind of include in their work. Making the presentations accessible through PowerPoint, like I tried to do with this one, is a simple thing you can do to actually being more inclusive. It's also important that we need to expand the knowledge and competence level, and making universal design the easiest way and the more default way. Lecturers, universities, professors, they have to want to actually facilitate to be inclusive for every single student. Because if we, as is also written here, have courses and resources, if no one has the will to actually use it, then they are of no use, obviously. We also need to raise awareness, like, for example, this, having seminars, actually communicating out why it's so important that every single part of the university, every lecture, every class and curriculum is universally designed. Because I think most people want to, but they don't know how or why this is actually such a big thing and something they really need to focus on. For example, universal design is for everybody. It's not just for the one person who needs it. So using a mic in a lecture, for example, it's something that helps every single student, because every single student, some way or another, will have a difficulty hearing sometime, and it's easier to actually focus on what's going on instead of focusing on trying to hear what the lecturers say. I think that's a very important part of this. Also, making equipment and systems easy to understand. It's very important from a lecturer's perspective. If you need to use 5 minutes and get help before every single lecture to make the mic work, to make the presentation actually show, then it's easier to just go back and not use the mic and not use the presentation. So here we need the universities to actually facilitate and have systems that you can just do easy and do quick, so that it's not an extra part of the job to actually be universally designed. And lastly, everybody needs to kind of start with themselves. I learned recently how to actually make universally designed PowerPoints. And that's something that when I talk to people or learn stuff to new people, that I will teach them how to do this. Because if I cannot do it myself, then I cannot expect everybody else to do it. So we need to all be together and actually work on being more inclusive as a university, as a student group, and as lecturers and professors and everything. And lastly, it's a little bit of why does it matter? Why do we need to actually care about this? Universal design is actually something that is supposed to include everybody. Everybody gets something out of the university being universally designed. It also makes it so that fewer people need special facilitation. So instead of we always need to think, oh, this one person needs that we use a microphone in the lecture. Microphone is always like the easiest way to talk about this. Then we just make it a default. You always use the microphone so that one student doesn't have to come and ask every single time they need the lecturer to use a microphone. And it also makes the difference between the students smaller. If you are a student that always needs to go up to the lecturer or professor and say, hello, I need you to do it this way and this way and this way, you feel like you are demanding too much, even though you are just telling them what you need, that you have the right to actually get. So it makes it so that every single student kind of gets the same opportunities, they get the same systems, and make sure that everybody feel included. And lastly, the students and staff that come after us will have it easier if we work on it now. It will make sure that we get system in place. We make it so that every new staff that is hired knows what to do to make it universally designed, so that that's not something people have to learn when they are already in the works and have been there for a while. It's important that this is part of the whole work. And it gives everyone the possibility to be included without having to ask. As I said, for a new student, they don't always want to go up to the lecturer and ask for the help they need or actually have the rights to have. So if we make universal design the default, then a lot fewer will have to individually ask for help. So that was what I had for now. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alida, even because you totally respect the time you had. And listening your speech, I better understand that you remember us that is crucial to have a universal approach. So the universal design is our cultural and scientific attitude when we talk about inclusion. So it's important that an inclusive university is inclusive for all, not necessarily for fragile students. This makes a big difference. And again, the second note that I took is that the inclusion is a complex process that bring together different actions at different levels. And the last one, just a reminder, significant, at least for me, is that you wrote that the inclusion starts with ourselves. So inclusion is a sort of a right, but even a sort of duty. And we have a sort of commitment for everybody. Okay, thanks, Lida. And I ask you to wait for a while, because after the speech proposed by Mario, we check if we have questions from the participants. Okay. Mario?
Sì.
Ok.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Good afternoon.
Grazie. Grazie a te di essere qua con noi questo pomeriggio a portare il tuo contributo. Volevo, come ho fatto con Elida, dire due parole anche su di te. Mario Bertolaso è stato lo studente senza diploma di scuola secondaria che ha frequentato l'anno scorso 2 corsi singoli, su cui dopo documenteremo lo studio di caso. Mario in questo momento sta facendo uno stage nell'ambito agricolo. Lisa, tu puoi tradurre nel frattempo se hai in difficoltà? Faccio, ok. No, maybe it's better.
Try to speak in English and then.
Okay. Okay. So I introduce Mario speaking in English. Okay, it's my fault. Sorry. So I was saying that Mario, he is the student that the last academic year attended the 2 single courses. And then when I will present the case study, I refer to Mario's experience here at Padua University. In this moment, Mario is doing internship in a social cooperative. So that is a no-profit organization in agricultural field. And I want especially to stress that Mario is a Paralympic athlete, and with his team, he has a world record in relay race. So sports is among all a personal passion, together with music. And this is why last year he attended even a single course about medieval music. So I think that that's enough to introduce properly Mario. And then I shift my language and I continue to speak in Italian. Ok. Mario, volevo iniziare con te dalla domanda generale, e cioè che cosa ha fatto la differenza, secondo te, in termini positivi nella tua esperienza universitaria l'anno scorso?
Beh, nell'esperienza che ho fatto nell'università, sicuramente di positivo ho trovato sicuramente una bravissima tutor che ha potuto fare la differenza sia sull'esame sia al mio approccio allo studio, che io stesso a volte non ho mai ritenuto sempre buonissimo. Però credendo in me stesso ho potuto realizzare che si poteva fare. Cioè mi sono detto, anche se ho avuto delle difficoltà, perché non devo riuscire a farlo. E sono riuscito a fare un buonissimo esame.
Hai voglia di dire qualcosa in più sul ruolo della tutor, perché secondo te ha fatto la differenza?
Beh, innanzitutto ha fatto la differenza il fatto che è stata sempre molto disponibile con me. Ci siamo sentiti anche nelle festività, diciamo, quando tutti sono in vacanza, mentre noi ci scrivevamo anche in periodi così, insomma. E secondo me anche queste piccole cose hanno fatto la differenza in tutto il corso del mio programma, insomma.
Certo. Ascolta Mario, ricordo che quando abbiamo conversato tempo fa su quello che faceva la differenza, mi avevi nominato anche il ruolo della professoressa del tuo primo insegnamento. Perché ti ricordi il suo ruolo? Mi ricordo che mi parlavi ad esempio della sua disponibilità.
Sì, ho voluto sottolineare il ruolo sicuramente decisivo della professoressa Paola Dessi, che secondo me è stata una professoressa no brava di più, oserei dire, perché è stata sicuramente anche lei molto disponibile e soprattutto faceva il suo lavoro veramente con molta passione e dedizione. E tutto questo l'ho potuto io stesso apprendere e vedere nelle sue lezioni, ed era anche molto coinvolgente con gli studenti. E devo dire veramente che è stato, devo dire, proprio fantastico, cioè, è stato proprio divertente.
Si è trovato bene, è stato
Molto,
appassionante
molto.
l'esperienza. Senti, un'altra domanda. Una domanda è di questo tipo. Ci piacerebbe, così come gruppo di lavoro, sapere se hai, come dire, dei suggerimenti, no? Che daresti all'università anche per migliorare questi percorsi pensati per gli studenti come te. C'è qualche buon consiglio che daresti?
Sì, come ci siamo già detti, Simone, io darei un suggerimento: cercare sicuramente di andare nelle scuole a parlare molto di più con i genitori di questi ragazzi che non potranno mai ottenere magari un diploma, che sicuramente molti qui in Italia non sapranno neanche dell'esistenza di questi corsi singoli. E secondo me è molto importante che lo sappiano, perché appunto così questi ragazzi possono avere una possibilità sicuramente in più di studiare quello che a loro piace di più, insomma.
Quindi dici, Mario, che è importante che l'università si colleghi alla scuola secondaria per informare delle opportunità che possono essere.
Esattamente, ancora di più. Se possibile, riuscire a fare ancora di più, anche se si sta facendo molto, però secondo me, io dico sempre che si può sempre dare qualcosa in più, e so che questi studenti un giorno potranno essere magari molto soddisfatti, come lo sono io a distanza di un anno. Io sono ancora molto soddisfatto di quello che ho fatto, lo devo dire proprio, ne sono soddisfatto.
Bene.
Anche per il mio percorso musicale che sto intraprendendo ora.
Mario, l'ultima domanda,
Sì.
ed è questa. Che tipo, o meglio, non che tipo, consiglieresti, un po' lo abbiamo capito dalle tue risposte, ma consiglieresti ad altri ragazzi come te di fare un'esperienza come quella che hai vissuto tu all'università?
Assolutamente sì, come ho già detto, sì, perché l'università intanto è tutta un'altra cosa rispetto alla scuola, è tutto un altro approccio, altro metodo di studio, perché io venivo dalla scuola prima e quindi ho trovato chiaramente un metodo di studio molto diverso, e tutto ciò a me mi ha fatto maturare molto, mi ha fatto crescere, e sicuramente ti insegna a avere degli obiettivi sicuramente diciamo, più concreti, seri, e
anche in qualche modo,
sì.
Mario, è anche un'esperienza che mette alla prova.
Esattamente, esattamente. Mi hai tolto le parole di bocca, e mette alla prova noi stessi.
Certo.
E mette soprattutto alla prova noi stessi. Perché magari, come ho detto io, magari noi non crediamo molte volte in noi stessi, invece io dopo questa esperienza ho creduto sempre di più nelle mie capacità.
Quindi ti sei rinforzato nell'autostima, insomma, in quella che è la tua autostima. Mario, grazie. Vedo, I see a message and a question for Mario in the chat. Mario, c'è una partecipante che ti chiede, e chiedo poi a Lisa se può magari riportare qualche parola in inglese di quello che può dire Mario. Una partecipante chiede: hai accennato al tuo percorso attuale musicale, ce lo racconti un poco? Perché dice così comprendiamo gli impatti del tuo percorso.
Allora, io...
Brevemente, quello che ti va di dire.
Sì, volentieri. Io nasco più di 10 anni fa come chitarrista, e quindi qua ricolleghiamo la musica, insomma.
He's fond of music, and he's a very good guitarist.
E niente, attualmente sto frequentando una scuola molto importante, che è il Modern Music Institute, per specializzarmi ancora di più, sia dal punto di vista pratico, ma anche molto di più da quello teorico.
Okay, he is attending a very important school, Music Institute, because he wants to specialize not only in practical way, but above all in theoretical level, at theoretical level. Go ahead, vai avanti.
Perché io, diciamo, non avendo mai fatto teoria musicale, mi sarebbe sempre piaciuto molto approfondire questa cosa, che non sono mai riuscito a fare negli anni, perché ovviamente teoria e pratica dopo ritornano tutte.
So, sorry, scusa che ti interrompo un attimo. Yeah, because he thinks that theory is really important as much as practice in playing an instrument. And so he wanted to combine theory and practice together. That's why he embarked into this path. Avanti.
Sì, insomma.
Mario,
Questo è...
conoscendo un poco il tuo percorso, può essere che l'insegnamento di musica medievale ha rinforzato la tua passione per la musica, così forse anche la partecipante capisce come magari l'insegnamento all'università ti ha in qualche modo galvanizzato ad approfondire i tuoi interessi musicali.
Assolutamente sì, ovviamente questo percorso mi ha insegnato che, per assurdo, la musica aveva una funzione forse più importante nel passato che non attualmente, e questa cosa mi ha scioccato.
Ti ha sorpreso?
Yeah,
Diciamo Lisa, prego.
Yeah, passing the exam of history of medieval and Renaissance music has increased my self-esteem and my curiosity towards music, and it made me be more stimulated and to do more accurate research, as well as to listen to music at a deeper level.
Ok, Mario, grazie anche per questa aggiunta sulla musica. Se puoi stare ancora un po' con noi ci fa piacere.
Please stay along with us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. So I continue to speak English, and maybe are there questions even for Elida or new questions for Mario? Let's see. Okay. Maybe in chat. No, I guess it's enough. So I think that we can give the floor to Barbara Lett and Victoria Rexler, and they are the chairs of the second step of the webinar. Please, thanks.
Thank you, Simone. Yeah, my name is Victoria Ressler. I work at the University of Graz at the Student Services on the one hand, and on the other hand, I am the project coordinator for Arqus at our university, and I'm also involved in the Action Line 2 and coordinating things concerning the Action Line 2, and so therefore I'm part of many task forces, and yeah, so I will hand over to Barbara.
Thank you, Victoria. Yes, my name is Barbara Left. I'm also from the University of Graz, and I'm the head of the Disability Resource Center, the service center for students with disabilities, where we provide information, counseling, and different services for students with all kinds of disabilities or health problems at our university. And I now have the pleasure to introduce to you our speaker, Brian Deck, from the University of Vermont. He's a research assistant professor there at the Center on Disability and Community Inclusion. His doctorate is in educational leadership and policy studies. And among his many publications, I read one title that I especially like, and I think describes very well his intentions in his work. It's a publication in an Australian journal on Down syndrome, and it says, "There are no sheltered workshops in Vermont." And it tells quite a lot about Vermont and about the work of Brian Deck, because in several different projects and activities, he has been an important part in a system change in Vermont that led to conversion from sheltered work to inclusive employment for persons with intellectual disabilities. And then he started with the next step, which is Think College at Vermont University. And with this, there is the path open to the university life, to post-secondary education, and the opportunity of the university community for students with intellectual disabilities. And Brian Deck is project director there, and the Think College describes itself as a small, innovative, inclusive, academic, social, and vocational program for students with disabilities seeking a college experience and career path. So we are very much looking forward to your knowledge and experience, and the virtual stage is yours, Brian.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate being part of this, and I appreciate the mission of what you're looking to do within your universities. So let me share my screen here. Okay. So I will review our Think College program at the University of Vermont. I'm in the Center on Disability and Community Inclusion, and we're part of the College of Education and Social Services. This is where we're located. We're in the upper northeast part of the United States. We're a small rural state of about 624,000 people. So we got a federal grant in 2010 to develop an inclusive program for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And our charge was to address these 4 areas. First being academic enrichment, so that all students will take typical classes at the university. Social and recreational activities. We wanted students to have the full experience of being a college student. So they get to meet new people and participate in social and recreational activities. Life skills and self-advocacy skills to improve daily living skills and increase independence and confidence. And the final, career skills and work experience to explore careers, develop employability skills, and establish a career path. Because the mission for these programs was to help people to get better jobs in the community, to increase their education and experience, and hopefully get better employment once they complete the program. So some of the background of this program is that it was transition and post-secondary programs for students with intellectual disabilities. That was the name of the grant. It was funded by the US Department of Education. So we were funded from 2010 to 2015. And it's really to enable colleges to create and expand quality inclusive model transition programs for students with intellectual disabilities. And also to create a meaningful credential so our students get a certificate of college studies when they complete the program. We have a national coordinating center at the UMass Boston. We're not on the grant anymore, but we're still involved with their data collection and research. So we were funded for $1.5 million over a 5-year period that ended in 2015. And we've been able to sustain the program now through program fees. So some of the background when we applied for the grant is that we did need permission from the university to apply for it because it was a unique and different program. We were given permission, but said that we cannot be disruptive or cost the university money. So when we started out, we were very kind of small and quiet and kind of kept under the radar. But over the years, we've really grown and gained acceptance within the university. And now we are, embraced by, the College of Education and Social Services and the university in general. Our mentors, which I'll speak more about them, but they are paid student employees, which makes us one of the larger student employers on campus. I usually have about 30 mentors, working with us. Right now, since we're no longer grant funded, we don't have the income that we had under the grant, so our staff has reduced. So currently I'm the director at 75% time. Then we have 3 lead mentors and 27 peer mentors. And I'll talk more about them. They're really the kind of the key to our program. The way it's funded, right now, since we don't have the grant funds, we charge program fees. And our fees are $16,000 for the academic year. And that covers our cost. So the program cost of staff, mentors, and the infrastructure of our program. And that's paid directly to our department, to the Think College program. And the funding that kids use for that is mostly our federal Medicaid waiver funding. So students have their own funds that they can use to pay for this, or high school contracts, or if a family has the means, they can pay privately. So those are our program fees. The second cost is tuition. So that's the cost that goes to the university. So that's the price of the classes that they take. So right now it's about $2,080 for a 3-credit class. and that covers the instructors' salaries and the infrastructure, and that's paid to the university. And we have different ways that financial assistance that students can tap into for that. So the admissions criteria is that they be transition age. So we define that as generally 18 to 26 years. We do have some students that have been a bit older, so it's not a definitive age range, it's just a guide. Then they need documentation of disability and the need for support. They have to provide their own transportation to the university, that we do not do that. Students must demonstrate a functional and communication and basic literacy and math skills. And they must demonstrate a level of independence, motivation, and emotional stability. And demonstrating a need for, or wanting to continue their education, I see as the most important part of it, that they really want to be there and do the classes, and also have a supportive family or team. That's very important as well. They need to have some moderate flexibility and able to manage stress, desire to continue their education and increase their independence and autonomy. Students must comply with the university code of conduct, and mentioned supportive family and team is really important. I just want to point out that they are continuing education students, so they're not matriculated students. They're not degree seeking. So the expectations of our students, that enrollment in the program is a privilege, it's not an entitlement. Students must be held to the student code of conduct that the university puts out. That includes behavior and academic integrity, and students can be dismissed if they break the code of conduct. So we provide accommodations, but not modifications. So the classes are not changed for our students. They can get accommodations through our university student accessibility services. That's our disability services office. And that can include extra time on tests, a separate proctoring center to take the test, note taker, things like that. So the key to our program is our peer mentors. Simone mentioned sort of the three models at the beginning of a kind of a segregated model, a hybrid model, and an inclusive model. And our goal was always to be as inclusive as possible. So the best way to do that would to have peer mentors, current university students providing that one-to-one support, rather than having outside staff come in and provide support. So this has been our key to our program, and it just worked extremely well. So our students are on campus for 15 to 20 hours a week, and so we provide a one-to-one support to those students. So given those hours, we do need a fair number of peer mentors. So I usually have 30 to 35 students working in the program, supporting anywhere from 12 to 15 students. And they are all full-time students, so they're busy as well. So, kind of coordinating the schedules can be a challenge at times. So the role of the mentors, they just provide basically overall help for students to be included on campus. That can include communicating with the professors. It's a big change from their high school. There's sometimes large lecture halls. A professor could have 200 to 300 students in the class, so they're not going to be as available for communicating with the students as they were in high school. Mentors help. They do attend class with the students, help them prepare for the class and plan assignments, help them to study, help them to develop relationships with peers. Kind of the social skills is a really big part of their role. and really supporting the students with high expectations and strengthening and fostering independence with them. The classes are difficult. It's a challenge for many of them, but the mentors are very supportive and helpful for that. And overall, just helping them navigate college life. So the academics, they do take typical classes. We'll look at the syllabus and the instructor, and help them to select a class that will be appropriate for them and that we feel that they can succeed in. They can take it for a grade, but they also have the option of auditing the class. So that means they would still do all the work and assignments. They just wouldn't get a letter grade. It would still count as credit toward their certificate. I mentioned they get accommodations, not modifications, but the biggest accommodation is that peer mentor support. And they also have access to other university programs like a writing partners, tutoring, and the Disability Services Office. The social and recreational is a big part of it. They've been participating in fitness groups, student clubs. They can tour different things around the university. Burlington 101 is what we call when if they want to go off campus, they don't have to stay on campus the whole time. They can take a shuttle or walk downtown or to the waterfront or a coffee shop with their mentors. So they don't have to be on campus all the time. And then there's always things happening on campus, a lot of different events that they can participate in. As continuing ed students, they get a UVM ID card, which gives them access to almost everything on campus. Not quite everything, but most things they have access to. The independent living and self-advocacy skills. This is done mostly just by sort of the peer mentor support and experiential learning. They gain skills just by being a college student. That includes being more independent. They learn budgeting, health and nutrition, communication, navigating campus, just making decisions, the proper use of technology, using public transportation, time management, and social media. A lot of these skills they gain just by being college students. And then we encourage career exploration for them to attend job fairs and look at different possible internships and jobs. As part of their program, they do at least one vocational internship. Some students have done 2 based on their career goals and their interest. So we don't have any set internship sites. I develop them based on what students want to do. So some examples have been the Lake Aquarium and Science Center, the Hilton Hotel. Big Heavy World is a radio station where a student had his own radio show, working at retail in a thrift shop. So what we found with these programs is that what's measured is the employment. They want to know what kind of jobs people are getting as a result of these programs. Though we're seeing they are building a lot of skills along the way. And what employers are looking for in kind of soft skills are communication ability, a strong work ethic, initiative, interpersonal skills, and teamwork. But our U.S. Department of Labor Office of Disability Employment Policy recognizes that these skills are equally important for youth with disabilities, yet are often lacking. But we're seeing that post-secondary ed programs such as Think College can address and build these skills. So those skills are listed here again. So the communication ability, courses such as written expression or public speaking greatly improve and enhance both the written and verbal communication skills. And we found just overall students have really improved their communication by being in these programs. A lot of the feedback I get is from parents, just telling me how much their students, their children have grown in skills by being in these programs. The strong work ethic, the students do take those typical classes, so there are high expectations, and they complete a vocational internship, so that helps them develop that work ethic. Students must show a motivation and initiative to be successful in the program. The interpersonal skills, just by being a university student, provides many opportunities to develop and improve interpersonal skills. And then with the coursework, it's often small groups that they do in projects, so they are able to develop more of teamwork. One of our former students said that he loves Think College because it gives me a chance to explore new things, to know who I am, to find myself and find out what I'm capable of. Thanks to Think College, I've been a better person. I've been so happy to find a place that I belong. So students do get a certificate of college studies when they complete the program. It's generally a 2-year program, but lately more students are taking a 3rd year. And if they have the funding and motivation to do that, we're fine with that. The 2 years seems to go by very quickly. So the 3rd year seems to be kind of a nice goal for that. So far, 40 students have gone through our program and received certificates, and we have about a 90% employment rate in community-based jobs when they do finish the program. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just sort of the overall impact of this program. So we've been in existence for 10 years now, and in a lot of ways, we've had, I think, a fairly profound impact within the university in general. Our peer mentors, we've actually had over 150 mentors work in our program at this point. And about half of them have been in the College of Education and Social Services, but the other half have not. They've come from different majors and interests. And what's been interesting is I did a follow-up study, just looking at the students and sort of why they wanted to be mentors. And then when they leave, they generally do a farewell letter. So I get to see kind of what they gained from it. And it's been very interesting. Their reasons for wanting to be peer mentors is that they've often had experience through other programs like Best Buddies or Special Olympics. Or they have a sibling or family member with a disability, or they're just really interested in the social aspect of it, of being involved with a program like that. For the instructors, earlier people mentioned the universal design for learning. It has kind of challenged some of the instructors to work with students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Some have gone way out of their way to make sure the students learn and had good experience. Some have been difficult, but that's been the rarity. Most of them have been very supportive of our students and our program. And then with the college, overall, we've been a large student employer, and just being part of the university has really increased the diversity within our university. I didn't put in here, but just obviously the students, and the families, there's been a big impact on them. Again, they've really increased their skills by being in these programs. And then the families report that it's had a significant impact on their children. One parent said it's just expanded their world, that they have more things to talk about. They talk about their classes that they're taking. One student took an anthropology class, and his father was from England, so he started asking him more questions about what his childhood was like and what the cultures were, and what kind of foods he had as a child and things like that. So it's really sort of opened up the world to students with intellectual disabilities to have an experience like this. And we'll see if this works. I have a short video. Can you...
Check out this verbal. My cousins.
Are you able to see the video? Is this
no?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brian,
Yes.
maybe we can put the link in chat and everybody can watch the video by themselves.
That sounds good. We'll do that. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't test it in advance. So, but it's just a short video that one of the students took of the program. So here's my my contact information, and I would be very happy to follow up if anybody has any questions later on or at any time. So.
Thank you. So thank you very much for this great and very interesting presentation. There is one question in the chat from Benedetta Satti. Number one is the access phase. What is the role of the instructors? Do they have a vocational guidance, life design, and career counseling function? Could you please tell us more?
Yeah, I'll check that. So the instructors, let's look at again. The instructors, I let them know in advance that there is this college student that is going to be in their class and that they're going to have mentor support. But their role is them for just to teach the class as they typically would. So they don't have a huge role in that other than being the instructor. And do they have a role in vocational guidance and career counseling? That's more my role as the director, because I'll meet with them, and we do a person-centered plan when we start the program, so we get an idea of what their interests and skills are, and then whatever their career goals are, we try to align the classes, so that they'll meet their career goals, and then the internships are a big part of that. So I'll work with the student and develop those internships. It is the internship is for credit, so I do have a curriculum for that and a textbook that they use, in addition to the work that they're doing, at the internship site.
Okay, so question number 2. How do you train the participants in the program as far as soft skills development is concerned?
A lot of that they just sort of acquire by being in the program, just by participating in the classes and the social activities that they're involved with. So it's not we don't have specific training on that. We are an inclusive program. We have developed a couple programs that are designed just for our students. One of them has been kind of a friendship and dating curriculum, because there were a lot of sort of issues about that. So those weren't being addressed by just being a typical college student. So we thought we needed to develop a curriculum specifically for that. Yeah, so those soft skills are mostly developed by their participation in the program.
And the third question is, do participants take active part in the university's social life among peers without disabilities? If so, what is the key factor favoring this?
They do, and the key factor for that would be those peer mentors. So peer mentors are students without disabilities, and they provide that support to them, but then they also introduce them to their friends, and I see them doing things outside of the role of peer mentors. So they'll get together on weekends and do things like that. So and they also will participate in going to the university sports games and things like that. Obviously the past 2 years have been a little difficult with COVID, but now we're getting back into more typical life.
Thank you. Then the next question, how is the curriculum differentiated to include students with intellectual impairment?
It's not. The curriculum is not changed. So whatever class they take, they are expected to follow the curriculum of the professor. Our mentors will provide that support, but we don't expect the instructors to change the curriculum for our students. The main thing that we can do with that is the audit option, so that they'll still do the work and take the quizzes and exams and things like that, but they won't get a letter grade for that. So sometimes that's helpful because we don't want them to get a failing grade. So if I feel like if they're not doing really well in the class, I can always switch it to audit later on. And sometimes it's just based on their stress level. They might feel stressed and anxious about the grades, so we can switch to audit. So that way, they still gain, in my opinion, whatever classes that they've taken, they gain something from being in that class. Even if they're not going to get a good grade in it, they benefit from being in the class.
Thank you. So the next question is in Italian language. So I need some help from Simone or from Lisa. Thank you.
Lisa, could you try to translate the question, please? Thanks.
Yeah, so Christelle said that she comes from professional education, and she is asking if the university can collaborate with these schools or institutions so that to orientate in a better way the students with impairments and disabilities towards their talents.
Oh, I'm not. Could you summarize that, Simone? I'm not sure.
Yeah, basically, the questions refer that this participant would like to understand how the university should or could to connect with the professional education institutions in the community in order to develop a good guidance action for students with disability, considering their personal tasks, skills, and talents.
I'm not sure. We work with we reach out to the high schools. So we reach out to our educational system and let them know that we have a program that is open to students with disabilities. One of the problems we had early on is that people thought the university was unattainable for people with disabilities without realizing that this program was designed specifically for them. So we work with the local high schools, and recruit. So we'll often do tours, they'll come and visit. We can tell them about the program. We let them meet other students and mentors. So that gives them an idea and access to these programs. So it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to be part of this program. We usually have like 12 to 14 students at any time. So it's a relatively small number. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question or not.
Isa, puoi un po' aiutarci a riassumere? Te la senti?
Well, actually, Cassandra Christelle said that she understood well. So,
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, there is another question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, there's another question from Brenda, who is from the Academic Association of Minho University. One of our new partners in Arqus, welcome. So, and she asks how the Vermont University manages to engage the students that don't have disabilities in the inclusion activities.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked that. The mentor program has been very successful. I present each semester at the special education class. All education students at University of Vermont are required to take this class. So there's usually 100 students there. So I will do a presentation, about Think College, and we usually have a panel of students and mentors, that can speak to them and do a question and answer. In that class, I'll recruit, I tell them that we're always looking for mentors. So most of the applicants come from that class. They like the concept, they like the program, and they want to be involved with that. So most of that's been the best recruitment for me, is that class. And sometimes it's friends of their current mentors, hear about it, they want to be involved. So recruitment has not been a problem. I usually get more applications than I need. So that's been great. So students have been very willing to be part of this program and providing that peer mentor support.
Thank you very much for answering all the questions. Are there any more questions? If
Brian,
not,
a couple of questions briefly. After 10 years, how did the program, the Think College changed in these years from the beginning compared to today?
Mm-hmm.
The first one is this question, and the second one is if a university knocks the door of your office tomorrow, and this university asks to you what is the first step that they have to move if they want to implement program like yours one, what is the first step they have to move? Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first question, so over 10 years, it has changed. It has changed a lot. We had a hard time getting students at the beginning because they just didn't really understand the program. So over time, like I said, we've done the tours and worked with the high schools. So now a lot more people know about our program. So I don't have to recruit as as much as I used to. I mean, we still recruit, but more people know about the program. And in the 10 years, I think one of the main things is we've gained acceptance within the university. Because I mentioned before, now we're really sort of embraced by it, especially by our College of Education and Social Services. Because I wrote an article for Simone in the past looking at that peer mentor relationship, because it's provided a lot of value to the university. Because it gives those peer mentors that one-to-one, experience, and hands-on experience. So my work with the mentors over the years has really grown. And now I'm constantly writing letters of support and recommendation as they go off to graduate school or for jobs. For some of them, it's been such a profound experience for them as a peer mentor that they decide to go into the disability field, which is great. So it's had a huge impact just on the students, the typical students within the university. And because of that, the college and the university has really embraced and valued our program. We're frequently asked by other students who are looking for experience or practicum or internships to work within our program. So over the 10 years, that's really expanded a lot. So I've been very happy with the results of the program. And I think just the results of the students themselves And this is an area for more kind of future research. In the United States, they've been looking more at the employment outcomes, which is the goal. But it'd be nice to see more research on, sort of what the long-term impact is, on students with their, self-esteem, communication, all kinds of things like that. I'd like to see more research and study in that. And sorry, Simone, what is the second part of the question was?
Sorry. Okay. The first step we have to move to implement this kind of program.
Oh, well, we definitely needed to get sort of that buy-in and acceptance from the administration, because the University of Vermont, they're always striving to increase their reputation, and the more challenging it is to get into the university, it makes them look better. So initially, people were worried that a program admitting students with intellectual disabilities might harm their reputation or something like that. But we made it clear to them that their students aren't really admitted to the university. They're part of this program, so they're still continuing education students, but they're not displacing other students. So I think it's really crucial for the university administration to understand what the program is. And then the other part of it, to me, is that peer mentor support is extremely important, to get typical other students to provide that support. Now, we pay our student mentors. Some other programs in the country do not. They rely on volunteers, but that seems to me just much more difficult to kind of recruit and maintain people on a volunteer basis. Our mentors, they're not in it for the money, they're in it because they want to do the work, but as students, they still need money. So we've asked them before, like, if it was a volunteer program, would they still do it? A lot of them said they probably wouldn't, because they do need the money, so they would need to get a different job. So paying them, I think, has been real crucial in our success. And when they're employees and they're paid, there's more accountability, because it is a job for them. So it's not just volunteer.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any more questions? Okay, if not, then I think we can thank Brian for the great insight into the into Think College. And go on with our next speaker.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I can introduce myself shortly. I'm Marlena from Vilnius University in Lithuania. So wishes from here. Thank you, Simon, for introduction in the beginning of our meeting and support for Ukraine. We really feel them and really hope that everything will be fine. A lot of people from Ukraine are coming to Vilnius, and our university working on that also. So all support and all good wishes are really important. And also, I really want to thank for the previous speakers, because we really here in Vilnius University are at the beginning of our journey, include people with intellectual disabilities to university. So all information is really useful, and I hope that in future we can share with the next coming universities and share the experience more briefly. So let me introduce the next speakers, our colleagues from Padua University. So my pleasure to introduce Maria Chiara Ferraresi, I hope it's correct, who is head of the Student Career Office at Padua University. And for sure, our main speaker, Simone De Fentin, who is full-time research at Padua University, and the field of his is teaching and inclusive education. And the short introduction, that main topic of the research is education projects for young people with disabilities. So I give you a floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Okay, thanks for the opportunity to present some outcomes. I try to go faster than my plan in order to respect the timing of the webinar. And so I immediately share my presentation. So I try briefly to share with you some outcomes that we carry out last year. And these outcomes refer to Mario university experience here in Padua. And as he already said, Mario attended a couple of single courses here in Padua. Of course, we are talking about a sort of embryonic experience, because you have to consider that that is not yet official program, part of the Padua training list of degree or master degree. Anyway, in our small qualitative research, we have considered, first of all, two main theoretical framework. In one side, the capability approach, so the human development model. So this kind of reference, remember us that the personal richness, it depends on the number and the quality of the opportunity that the person have to pursue what is significant for her. And in the second hand, when we tried to better understand the learning and teaching strategies, we refer to the universal design for learning. Basically, we had these two main goals. First of all, to try to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of this experience, single experience at university. And secondly, to try to collect ideas, suggestions from the interviewed in order to redesign, to better design the training pathway here in our university. So we developed a semi-structured interview, and this interviewed basically respect a sort of chronological order. So we try to consider the first phase, the so-called welcome phase. So how the first contact took place and what actions were taken. The second phase was the so-called guidance phase. So we try to understand how the psychologist with a specific skill on guidance strategies guide and support the students to choose the single courses. And maybe the third one, maybe the most relevant phase, is about and was about the teaching and learning experience. The specific experience at university, we try to connect it to the wider biography of the students. So we globally interviewed 9 people, 9 persons. This is the list of our interviewed. So the students, of course, the head of the Inclusion Students Office, the guidance expert, 2 peers mentors, and 2 teachers involved in the 2 single courses, and even we choose to involve and to carry out the point of view about the parents of the students. Briefly, I try to stress some key elements of the research. If we consider the welcome phase, we emerged that the student inclusion service has a so crucial role because this service is involved to build a sort of network around the students, even referring to the professional that support the students, or maybe, of course, the students too, and sometimes is necessary the parents. And the second front of this network is a sort of internal network. So to try to develop a good communication between students, tutors, and teacher. We realized that thanks to these interviews that even because this is an embryonic experience, the monitoring phase and the monitoring actions were discontinuous. This is maybe a weaknesses. So the assessment of the process was not systematic. If we consider the second phase, what were and what are the strengths of this moment, of this process? First of all, the capacity of the psychology to meet and to consider globally the student. So of course, avoiding to focus only on the professional skills, but even to try to considering the different aspect of the students, even in terms of desires, personal aspirations, and so on. And this specific approach and attitude developed by the psychologist focused on a co-planning process. So involving the students in order to choose together, step by step, what was interesting in terms of single courses to choose. This approach, this attitude, of course, was significant because helped the students to make stronger its personal self-determination. If we want to underline weaknesses of this phase, we can say that there is still a poor offer about the single courses. So it's not easy to match what is the goal and the learning goal of the students to the list of the single courses that we can to consider. You can see that in this slides, in the bottom of the slides, you can read some quotes taken from the interview. Passing or moving to the teaching and learning phase, as Mario already remembered in his speech, make a difference the capacity of the teacher, particularly, and the peer tutor to build a trust relationship with the student, which implies that the teachers paid attention to the student's cool background. So the teachers were interested in understand what the student, what kind of school he attended in the past, what was his learning strategies, what was the significant topic that was significant for him. And the third element that is important to stress is the capacity, especially of the first teacher, to be flexible in the learning strategy. About this point, I remember that that teacher choose in their general syllabus a specific book. It was a sort of atlas about the medieval music, and that was the main important resource thanks to which the students study and prepare even the final assessment. About the final assessment, so the exam, even here, the teacher revealed a flexible attitude because offered to the students the possibility to prepare a sort of PowerPoint, even because the students was able to use pictures in order to present and express himself. So to try to support him to develop a specific and a personalized strategy to express and to study. Again, if we consider this phase, especially the students stressed that the online lessons was an opportunity to find the right distance. And as you can read in the quote below, so the possibility even to rewatch again by himself the lesson, and so repeat the contents of the lesson. Maybe a weakness of this phase maybe has been the fact that the peer tutors change. And if we consider the point of view of the student, maybe he preferred to have a sort of continuity, so to have only one peer tutor that support him. We talk about the peer tutor because the peer tutor was maybe the main resources of this experience. Why the peer tutor did a good job with the student? First of all, because they had a specific training. They attended a training about relational and communication skills, and even about the inclusive perspective, especially in terms of value and in terms of culture perspective on inclusive field. The second element that qualified the peer tutor approach was very personal attitude. And you can better understand what I mean if you read the quote below. She said, "I have always enjoyed studying and helping others. I always did it with friends and in study group at the university. It was always been a role that I like and that I felt belonged to me. This is why I decided to do this experience as a peer tutor. I consider myself a person with good sensitivity and good empathy, and diversity does not scare me." So a good balance between skills and personal attitude. The third element was to be a student that knows the discipline. So that was particularly useful for the peer tutor, because he knows the discipline where our students were attending the courses. Okay, the last one element is this one, so the a sort of emancipatory attitude towards the students. I can describe this attitude in this way. The peer tutor works well if he is able to stay a step back to the students. Many times the peer tutors works with the students outside the classroom, not in the classroom. And this is a key element that, in my opinion, is relevant for our reflections and our thoughts. Okay, moving to the final part of the presentation, some crucial aspects. In this moment, my reflections are relevant for our university. We need, or we have the need to move a step forward, and we need to formalize this kind of program, because maybe we can have more resources, even in terms of budget, in terms of financial element, but even in terms of staff, so in terms of human resources to better work in this kind of program. The second element is that if we want to do a better work, we have to make a better assessment in a systematic approach. And the third element that I share with you, we have to better connect the university to the secondary school, so to the high school, and there to start with a guidance action involving the students with a disability that are attending the high school. Okay, again, we need in this moment to create a sort of official partnership with schools and stakeholders in the community. So we have to sign a sort of statement, a sort of agreement with the stakeholders in order to better connect the university with, no-profit organizations, schools, families, and so on. Again, we have to invest in teachers and tutors training, focusing on inclusive approach. Since the beginning, I remember the Alida speech, and there she remembered us that it is so important to assume a universal design approach. And then maybe this is questionable as point, maybe if we want that the project work well, maybe we have to give continuity in the student tutor support. Okay, maybe the last briefly on the background, we consider, as I previously mentioned, the student biography. So its interests in sport and music emerge, and sometimes even the friendships of the student that is not easy for him to develop. And again, of course, the family has a crucial role. So many times when I met students with or without disability, we discover that parents have to be a positive approach to the child in order to support him or her to gain a personal autonomy. Okay, so this is the future for us. This is the scenario that we are imagining. And for us, this scenario, this architecture is composed from these elements. We are imagining that the architecture of the Rethinking College program here in Padua should be 2 years long, composed by at least 4-6 courses, even an internship experience, and offering a leisure time opportunities. And the last but not the least, we have a sort of commitment, how to give value, how to formalize this kind of program. But about this key element, the open page, there is my colleague Maria Chiara that offer his knowledge about it. Thanks a lot.
Perhaps you have to give up your presentation.
Maria Chiara, if you,
yes.
you want.
I'm not able to share the screen. If you want to take
Sorry.
yours.
Okay. Here I am. Sorry.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. And so we speak of our experience at University of Padua about the delivering of open badge for degree seekers and for professors. It is our perspective for Rethinking College, and so I will present the tool of open badge. Open badge, what is an open badge? An open badge is a digital certificate of disciplinary knowledge, soft and technical skills acquired. It is very important, the focus on skills. An open badge has a graphic part, the image, the specific information, metadata on the skills acquired or goals achieved, how it was verified, who issued and who received it. Open badges are certified by the issuing institution and are internationally recognized. They are stored in a dedicated platform, saved in an open source and uploadable format. Contents of open badge. Open badge consists of a title, the title of the program, for example, a description, the experience, and its objective must be clearly and concisely described in order to let the people understand what the students did or the professor did. Competencies acquired by those who followed the project. Criteria, qualitative and quantitative criteria applied by university in order to deliver the open badge. Tags are keywords that describe the badge, making it possible to classify and search for information based on keywords. It is very important that the keywords are present in Wikipedia, for example, so that it will be easier to understand the contents of open badge. Image, it should help to recall the project followed. And now a very short perspective on application of open badge to UniPD. Open badge are delivered to University of Padua students for bachelor and master degrees, curricular activities, and what is important for soft skills. Here there are all the link where you can find information about all activities that let students obtain open badge. And open badge are also delivered to professors involved in innovative teaching projects. It has been a very challenging project, the Teaching for Learning. And here there are some details about this project. That's it. If you have any questions, perhaps it's easier to understand.
Do we have any questions? if no, then I have one, just maybe easy or maybe it's the most difficult one. What was the biggest challenge for you with starting your work with people with intellectual disabilities in Padua University? So what do you think was the biggest challenge?
May I? Okay. I try to answer to this big question, in my opinion. First of all, I have to remember that in Padua, we have a quite long tradition if we consider the inclusion of students with disability at university in regular degree. Because in this moment, we are more or less 800 students with disability in regular degree or master degree. And I guess that, as I tried to mention before, the most challenging aspect is about how to involve students with disability in leisure time. Paradoxically, it's easier somehow to involve them in the classroom or in the learning environment. In my opinion, the most challenging aspect is how to involve them in the no formal environment. And if I stay focused on this specific experience, this is recent because we are referring to students with disability without a diploma. And here we have a lot of experience to gain. So this is quite new even for us, this to build this kind of pathway. In my opinion, if we consider the research perspective, I feel that we have to better understand, for example, for students with disability without diploma, how the relationship with the peers work. We don't have yet outcomes about this aspect, and we need to collect data about this aspect.
Thank you very much, Mona. Do we have any questions more? So perhaps we can start with the next step. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess it's the time managed or moderated by Helen and Alma Maria. So the stage is yours,
yeah.
If you agree.
Yeah,
please.
okay. Good afternoon. I'm going to share my screen. Can you share the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's necessary to present, introduce myself. Or...
Yeah, sure. Please.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Alba Maria Hernandez. I'm a teacher specialized in inclusive education, inclusive pedagogy at the school and university. And I coordinate the diploma in social and labor inclusion for young people with disability in intellectual disability in Spain with Esperanza Alcaín. And I'm going to present the summary in a 3 minutes. I try, I promise 3-4 minutes about our summary with Ellen Lim. I don't know if Ellen wants to introduce herself.
No, thank you. You just go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Helen. It's a pleasure for me. Okay, we try to explain, to focus in the title, Building New Inclusive Pathways at the University. First is need to universal design, include everyone for all, inclusions as a right, physical, sensory, and cognitive accessibility. The last one is really important because perhaps it's really forgotten in our university. And the second one is giving a voice to a student. It's really interesting in this webinar to hear our students. It's important to say that the university has to be coordinated with educational center and the educational community, families, the first one, and connect with secondary school. Inclusive education at the university as opportunity to social inclusion is the most important idea, and improve the self-esteem, motivation, curiosity, and other skills. The third is the role of the mentors, one-to-one support to students, to improve the communication, prepare the classes, study and review relationship, navigate campus life, and the mentor of peer tutor is the both roles. Also the other important ideas is social and recreation life, independent life, work experience, and we hear all the participants, the panelists, talk about the soft skills, communication ability, strong work ethic, initiative, interpersonal skills, and teamwork. The last one is really important. And finally, we try to improve welcome phase, guidance phase, teaching and learning phase. With you can read the different points that Simon focused in his presentation, to get a certification, not only in a course. It's really important for the university. Teacher and tutor inclusive training, and of course time to improve, because these are really new. I think there is a really new path, and it's really important to get time to improve this process in inclusive education. I think that is the summary. We try to do that a short time. We hope it's a few ideas. I don't know if you have any question about this.
Well done, Alba Maria. Great job, because you help us to summarize the key elements of this afternoon we spent together. So well done. Thanks.
We try.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, perfect. Helen, in your opinion, are there some elements that is important to underline at the end of this afternoon?
Maybe I could say that the working on the universal design for each and every one of us is very important. There was a comment to Elida's introduction. Somebody wrote, what about universal extra time? Which absolutely is a point. It takes a little bit of time to learn how to do it. But, and I know that professors and tutors are a lack of time. So we need to figure out how to do it, and to make sure that the universities provide the easy, usable tools for the tutors to use, digital tools. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a question from the chat. Hi again. I'd like to know if we will have access to the recording of the meetings or to the PowerPoints presentations.
Yes, you do. The record will be available through the Arqus site resources. In my opinion, at the end of this afternoon, I realized better that, I mean, the journey is longer, but I think that we are well motivated, and I better understood that inclusion is a collective action. And I think that everybody here in this webinar is aware that inclusion is easy to say, but is harder to cultivate, to implement. But everybody have to put something in this commitment. So what I have or what I can do for a more inclusive university, maybe this is the question that stay with us even at the end of the webinar, and we try to answer together to this big question. I see that we have even some final question. Benedetta wrote, how would you go about persuading lecturers about the fact that Think College or Rethinking College can contribute to excellence in university and not vice versa, as they may think? Who wants to try to answer to Benedetta? I think, in my opinion, we have to try to answer what is excellence and what makes excellent a university. Okay, this could be a good question that we can consider even in the future. So to problematize what is an excellent university, or what is excellence at the university, and what kind of contribution a task force like the Arqus one can do about this debate. Okay, I think that we have finished our webinar, and before to say you hello, I would like to thank to the participants, of course, so thank to the audience. And if you are interested in our topic and the work of our task force, please contact us or contact me even through the email address that we have seen, for example, in my slides. And again, I remember you that you'll receive a short questionnaire in the following days in order to assess your point of view about this webinar. And of course, I hope that this webinar has been interesting and useful for you. Thank even to the speakers for the contribution, for the contents that you have shared with us. And the last but not the least, thank to my colleagues and the members of the Rethinking College Task Force for the efforts and the good job that we are doing together. So thanks, and keep in touch to everyone, and thanks a lot for what we have done in this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.